So Chapter 2 Remix is here, and with that all of our ranks have reset. Now like me, you probably have the same goal of wanting to get back up to that Unreal rank as fast as possible. In today's video I'm going to share with you some tips and strategies you can use in your ranked games to help get up to Unreal rank as fast as possible. If you do enjoy today's video and find it helpful, please make sure to smash a like and subscribe for much more competitive content just like this. Okay, so just quickly before we get into the tips and strategies, I want to talk about Fortnite's changes to the new ranked system. Now, the ranked system this season only has a couple changes, but they are quite major. One of them being that instead of just one placement match to decide your rank, you now have a series of placement matches. Now, we don't yet know how many games this is, but it means that they have increased the importance of your placement matches compared to previous seasons. In previous seasons, it would only be one placement game, and normally you would get gold 2 every single time. Please do drop a comment down below and let me know what rank you guys get this season, but normally you would always get gold 2 if you was Unreal in the previous season. However, now that there is a series of initial placement matches, it seems like Epic have increased the importance of these placement matches when trying to get your rank initially, so I'd recommend trying to get as good as you can opening matches. Maybe these be 2 out of 3 wins in order to get the highest starting rank, as it seems like Epic has increased the importance of placement games. Now, as we know, playing ranked is also an important part of actually improving at the game, but if I want to rank up fast and get to Unreal as quick as possible, which game mode should I play to do this? Well, I'm going to answer that question for you. Epic still has never come out on which game mode you need to play, whether it be solos, duos, trios, or squads. It simply depends on which game mode you can perform best in. For example, if you're a really good solos player in the new meta with the spazzes, for example, then you might want to play solos if you can consistently drop maybe high placement games where you get a top 5 with 4 to 5 elims or something like that. However, if you're not as confident as a solo fighter and maybe you perform better in a team environment like a trio or a squad, then if you can consistently drop high kill trio or squad games like 20 bombs, possibly even 30 bombs, then this is a really good option for you guys to play. Now, with there being lots of mobility in the new meta, such as grapplers and crash pads, and I will be doing a video on the meta, so make sure you stay tuned for that, this means that the lobbies are most likely going to be pretty dead for the first week of the season in ranked, so it's really easy for you guys to get high placement games, especially if you play the team modes. Now, what I will say is that you do gain much more percentage in solos if you have a good game than in squads, and this is because it's easier to get a top 5 teams in squads than it is in solos, so they reward it more in solos, if that does make sense. But overall, it comes down to which game mode you can perform best in on a consistent basis, especially the importance of those placement games. I'd recommend that you guys get the 3 best fighters you can, go into a squads game and try and dominate those original placement games, as they're very important. Now let's talk through what to do at each stage of every ranked game you guys play. So starting off, the first and arguably most important stage of the game is your early game. Now, how should you play the early game? Well, the only reason that you may lose rank percentage is often because you die off spawn. So if you can master the early game correct, then you're not likely to lose much rank percentage, so you can only always gain and get closer to Unreal. Now, when playing off spawn, there are 2 different ways you can play. You can play the aggressive playstyle, which is a more W key heavy, or you can play the calm playstyle, which is a lot more safer and depending on getting to that top 5 placement. Now, this season there are 16 POIs on the map, which is similar to last season, Chapter 5 Season 4, and there are also areas in the top left and bottom right hand corner of this map which is pretty free, so if you're looking for somewhere pretty dead to land, that may be a good option when picking your drop spot. I will also be making a video on drop spots soon, so please make sure you smash that subscribe button ready for all of this content. But starting off, let's talk about the calm playstyle and how you want to play it. I'd recommend landing at the outskirts of the map, or a less congested POI. An example of a less congested POI might be Slurpy Swamp, for example, Weeping Woods, Dirty Docks, the ones that don't tend to have as many players compared to areas that will have players like the Dog Pound. The Yacht's probably quite congested, pleasant and sweaty. So I'd recommend landing either outskirts of the map or a rather dead POI and trying to just focus on getting off of spawn. If it's heavy contested, I'd recommend swerving and going to something nearby, so always have a loot route planned that you can do outside of the POI. For example, if you elect to land Slurpy Swamp, for example, but it's really contested, then you want to have a loot route in the outskirts of Slurpy Swamp if it is too contested, which you can scrap and then get your loot that way and make it off spawn. I also wouldn't recommend fighting off spawn unless you get the opening damage onto your opponent. By all means, if you get 100 beam and you crack your opponent, then you can take that fight if you're confident you're going to win it. But if you're playing a calm playstyle, I'd always recommend just getting your loot from 1 or 2 buildings at the POI and disengaging out the back in order to regularly get off spawn. And then if you are looking to do the aggressive playstyle, let's talk about that. Then you can land one of the more congested POIs, this being the Dog Pound, Sweaty Sand, Pleasant Park, the Yacht, Steamy's quite congested, the Rig, Misty, Lazy Lake, all those sorts of areas that are likely to have a lot more players. And I would also recommend that you guys land pretty low key at these POI, maybe claim 1 or 2 buildings, get your loot, and then push in to clean up the fights. The best strategy to do off spawn, even if you are an aggressive fighter, is wait for other players to start fighting at the POI, come in as the third party, clean up, gain both the kills and win, and then you are the player out of the POI that makes it off of spawn. Okay, so next it's time to talk about the mid game. Now this is arguably the most decisive part of the game, because if you are able to get through the mid game, you're guaranteed to gain a lot of percentage when you make it to that top 5 placement in the end game. Now for mid game, again, there are 2 types of placement which you can play. You of course have the aggressive playstyle and you have the calm playstyle. Now the calm playstyle, I would recommend that you guys rotate the dead side of zone. Now the dead side of zone is the area where zone has pulled towards. For example, if we look at the Chapter 2 remix map, if the zone pulls north towards Craggy Cliffs, the area up near Pleasant Park and Craggy Cliffs is likely to be the most unconned, and this is because no one has had to rotate into that area, so only people that landed there off spawn are the ones there. The more congested area will be down near Salty Springs or the Dog Pound, for example, where players from Weeping, Slurpee, Holly, Lazy would all have to rotate towards, and this creates a congested area. So if you are a calm player, I'd recommend rotating to the dead side, and this is because you're likely to not get W keyed up there. There's going to be less players, so you have to take less fights, and you could look to camp in a building or camp in a bush. Again, this doesn't practice your fighting skill too much, but it will help you rank up quicker, and then you can look to take fights when you get into that top 10. As for the aggressive playstyle, I'd recommend rotating to the congested side of the map, and this is something that you can do maybe once you get a purple or gold pump and you are more confident in fighting. If you are a confident fighter in this meta, we do have a lot of good fighting meta, such as the burst, obviously the spaz, the grappler, crash pads, everything minis, all of that. It's creating a really nice fighting meta. So if you do want to take a fight and you're feeling more aggressive, I'd recommend going to the congested side of the map already, like I did explain, and this is because lots of players will have to rotate into that area, so you're going to run into more fighters, and the players there are likely to be already involved in a fight, and you could look for third parties. Now what I will say is that on the dead side of the map is likely to be worse players, and this is because these are the players that are trying to camp out for placement. So as a W key, you could rotate to the dead side of the map. It would be quite long, but then you are likely to get less skilled players, which means easier fights and then ranking up at a quicker rate. And the same goes for a calm playstyle. You can take fights on the dead side of zone because you're less likely to get third partied, and also the players on the dead side are probably not as skilled as the players fighting congested. So now I've covered both the early game and mid game, we of course have to cover the end game. Now the end game this season is likely to be pretty dead, and I think that's because this season is going to be really W key heavy due to all the crazy kids having the purple pump. They're going to go absolutely mental and try and get as many kills as possible. But in terms of the end game, I think it's going to be pretty dead, and there isn't too much strategy to tell you about. What I will say is that once you've already got to that top 10 and top 5, you're guaranteed to gain ranked percentage, so therefore you can play a bit more comfortable knowing that you're guaranteed to rank up. What I also will mention is that kills in the top 10 and top 5 are proven to be worth more on your ranked percentage than a kill off spawn, for example, and this is because Epic views it as the people that are alive later in the game are better skilled, so therefore if you get a kill on them, it's more rewarding. So again, that is something to bear in mind. If you want to look to get kills in the top 10 and top 5, these will be really good in order to gain you guys ranked percentage. But apart from that, try your best to get the win, and that is pretty much all there is for the end game. Now finally, the last thing I want to mention this season is going to be patience when ranking up. There is going to be times where you're going to be 555, 100, 100, and you get one pumped by insane sweats. It will happen, and I need you guys to just bear with it. You have to understand that in order to rank up, it's meant to be difficult, it's meant to be a struggle. There's going to be times where you run into people that are absolutely insane and they're dominating the entire lobby. But if you play it smart and stick to your strategies, which I've taught you guys, and you guys follow the correct rotates, you follow the correct game plan, eventually over time you will end up getting to that unreal rank. I really hope today's video has helped you out. If it has, make sure you drop a like and subscribe for much more content just like this. Use code MANZANOSIS, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out from me.